We all come into the world in basically the same ways. We're held, we cry, we're cleaned and wrapped up, handed off to our parents to say their first hellos. Then we go home where we learn to move, and then we learn to crawl. We start taking our first steps, finding ways to connect with others, and then we start running and growing and learning how to take care of things. At first, it's just play, but really we're practicing how to love. We learn how to form deep connections with others so that when we get older, we can find somebody to share our love with. We start getting older together and sharing new experiences, helping each other to grow in the ways that we want to grow, working through challenges together, and ultimately making choices to commit to each other and to the future.
What if they talk about something but I don't know how to talk about it?
In July 2024, Nathan and I went on a trip to the mainland. We went to Busan because we hadn't been there in a long time, and that's where we did our training when we first came to Korea. I had really wanted to go on a water obstacle course, so we did a bunch of water slides, and then they had this really cool thing where you could rent a paddleboard and go paddleboarding to watch the sunset, and then to watch the fireworks under the bridge, and then the drone show that was happening at night. It was a really cool experience to be out on the water, and it was pretty romantic, especially because paddleboarding had been a big part of our life for the last couple of years. We weren't trying to have kids, but we weren't not trying to have kids, so we had been joking with each other that this could wind up being our last vacation without kids. So we tried to make a lot of experiences. We ran into a famous K-pop idol. I got to see Dear Evan Hansen, the musical, which I really wanted to see. We also went to a sauna and we went to the Lush Spa up in Seoul. Before the massage, they asked if there was any chance that we could be pregnant, and I'd said no. But then we visited with our friend, and she mentioned that my fingernails were really long, and I started to think. So the next night when we got makgeolli bingsu, or like the shaved ice stuff with alcohol, I did not eat very much of it just in case. And I started to feel like when I got home, I really wanted to take a test. The first test I took, you could barely see the line, but it was there. Over the next couple of days, I took more tests and the line got darker. I wanted to wait a couple days before I told Nathan, since he was starting a new job, and I scheduled my blood test and got the results.
Hi.
What do you think I'm going to talk about?
Talk about your body?
Yep.
What?
It doesn't mean anything yet, but I have had positive.
Watching the baby grow was a very interesting experience. The first time that I heard her heartbeat, I almost couldn't believe it because I had expected that something would go wrong, and that feeling just kept up at every single appointment because I thought that pregnancy was going to be really difficult. But every time that we went, she just kept growing, and it was almost like every single appointment there was a reason to be surprised. So it was a really cool experience. Pretty early on, we told a few of our closest friends about the pregnancy just so that we'd have some support. I was really lucky and didn't have too much morning sickness, so we were able to keep doing basically our normal life for the most part. One of the first things we did that felt kind of like normal was going during the Korean Thanksgiving holiday on a trip around Jeju and just staying at different hotels and doing different things. Eventually we told Nathan's brother.
Daisy is in the very early stages of pregnancy.
Very early.
Wow, congratulations.
Very early, so it might not work.
We told our parents.
When did you find out?
We're 13 weeks now. So we had our So today was our like big appointment. So no problem.
Appointment? Oh, God. Oh, man, congratulations.
Yeah, we'll see. We celebrated our 1-year wedding anniversary. Went to the parade we'd gone to after our wedding. And then just lived life as normal, like working at school and hanging out with our friends. By around October, I was feeling basically 100% back to normal. I wanted to stay fit, so I went for at least a 30-minute walk every day during my lunch hour, and I started hiking. I really wanted to do our tradition of hiking up the big mountain on Jeju for Halloween. That was a really big choice to make because I wasn't sure if it was something that I'd still be able to do while I was pregnant, but working towards it and actually achieving it was really important for my self-esteem. I found out the baby's gender at an appointment that Nathan couldn't go to, so to let him know, I printed an escape room, and when he finished it, I gave him ice cream.
Purple.
It's not purple.
Purple.
It's not purple.
It's gotta be a girl?
Yeah.
Is it a girl?
Yeah. Probably.
Jeez, why is there a bear?
He's just stuck in there, you know? He feels stuck. Somebody told him that he's fat, and he decided to go live in a tub of ice cream, and now he's happy. We decided to make our gender announcement be when we hiked the trail up the mountain, so we told our parents first before posting on social media.
And that's the summit.
Sit down. Oh, look at that! What is it?
Yeah.
Is it? Oh.
Getting the pictures at the top was pretty hard because I had hiked slowly and we got to the top late, actually a few minutes before it closed. The guards were telling us that we had to turn around and go back before we got to where the rest area was, which is where the bathroom was. There was no way that I was gonna walk like 2 to 4 hours down the trail to get to the bathroom, like by the parking lot. So I was like pulling the pregnancy card, like I am pregnant, I need to pee, I need to keep going so that I can go to the bathroom at the top. And that also gave us time to take these pictures, which worked out. Everything started to feel more real once we found out the gender. We really started investing and preparing for the baby. We signed our dogs up for training classes, got the wallpaper changed in our house. I couldn't be there because of the chemicals, so we stayed at a nearby hotel. We started an online prenatal class. It was 4 hours long, and we brought our phones with and joined the class from the pool. This was also the first day the baby started kicking, and I could see it like on my stomach. So it was around this time that everything started to feel really real. I had worried a lot about whether I'd be able to help this year with the drive that collects donations for underprivileged families living on the island, but we actually were able to help quite a bit. I think having this project to focus on through the holidays made me feel really healthy, and it gave me something to focus on that wasn't just the baby. We were even able to host a couple parties at the local orphanages, but we were really happy to get one last Christmas to spend together as just a couple. For New Year's, we went on a trip to the mainland. We did a lot of things, but most importantly was we went hiking to see the first sunrise of the new year. I really wanted to make sure that I started the new year out healthy, and we were super active. Even when we got back to Jeju, we went hiking again. But I learned quickly that the third trimester is not good for doing a bunch of exercise. I was in bed for a few days and limping around for like a week, but after taking some Pilates classes, felt a lot better. Later in the month, Nathan and I went to Seoul to see One Republic. We had never been to a concert together, and at this point we were just trying to do as many things as we possibly could before the baby arrived. We even went down a water slide. Yeah, it was a busy few weeks. For the Lunar New Year, we brought Butter to Seoul, and since she was adopted, Nathan brought her to America. It was really hard. I cried more that week than I had, I think, for anything. But I brought Hetzel with me, and we had a lot of really good experiences together, and it was great to have just a final trip to focus on Hetzel. I also got to experience sitting in the pregnancy seats on the Seoul subways. And on that trip, I brought home a bassinet. At this point, I was 8 months pregnant. I have no idea how I carried this thing all the way down, basically the whole country, but I did. After that trip, my maternity leave started. My job was really nice and even bought me a cake.
Farewell, farewell, Stacy.
So then I had time to be at home and relax. I spent a lot of time with the dogs, and also I had more time to do things like go to doctor's appointments. I was actually going to 2 different doctors because I couldn't make up my mind about where I wanted to give birth. But then one night my blood pressure spiked, and I was admitted overnight at my doctor's office. They monitored me and the baby overnight. I used an IV for blood pressure medication, and I got to see what a Korean hospital stay is like. Even eating things like miyeokguk, which is a traditional food to eat after you've given birth. The experience let me know a bit of what to expect, so it eased a little bit of my anxiety about giving birth. By this point, both of my doctors were saying that I would need to have a C-section.
We think it's very risky state. Kind of.
So you think if blood pressure is really high,
have you heard about eclampsia?
Yeah, I know.
The seizure,
Yeah,
epilepsy.
I know.
So that's very risky for the mother.
So you think the C-section is
So in
easier
case
on the body?
the blood pressure not controlled well, it's too high, so we think it's very
Take the risk
risky.
out,
The face the way of the delivery would be C-section section. So we would.
Then after my blood pressure had gone this high, both of my doctors said that I needed to be transferred to the university hospital.
I should let you go to the big hospital.
I had been really scared of switching to the university hospital, but after I was accepted there, everything felt a lot less stressful. The smaller doctor had me doing a lot of tests every 2 days to monitor my condition, and they also had told me that I need to deliver at 35 weeks. But the university hospital felt more confident in high-risk pregnancies, so they let me keep the pregnancy for as long as both of mine and the baby's conditions were stable.
What do you think? Do you want to keep going or
I don't know. I don't know.
you don't know?
Whatever is safe.
Do you want to make a decision from me?
Sure.
Yeah, I can make a decision. The next week we will arrive the full term, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. From 37 weeks. Next Tuesday, so you are already ready to the birth. Okay.
Right.
But okay, it is a first choice. So if you okay, and it is the best choice, I think. It's the best choice. And there is 2 ways to birth. One is natural delivery and cesarean section. Right? What do you want?
I'd been told by 2 doctors before that I would have to have a C-section. I also was told that I wouldn't be able to make it to 37 weeks. So it was a really big relief when I was given that choice. I decided to schedule an induction. There were 5 days between the doctor's appointment and the date of hospitalization. So Nathan and I decided to do a lot of things. We got pictures together, we ate at all of our favorite restaurants. We did all of the last minute chores around the house, like putting together the crib and installing the car seat. On his last day of work before paternity leave, Nathan's coworkers and students threw him a baby shower. It was really cute to go through and see all of the encouragement that Nathan's students had left for him and all the advice for what it means to be a good parent. Our friends were also really supportive and started sending us gifts. We got like so many things, and also like people in our community had given us some things throughout the pregnancy, like that they had used for their kids that they didn't need anymore. And even my adult students had thrown a baby shower to help get some necessities. So it was really encouraging to be so supported by our community. And our friends really made it a lot less of a scary experience and just more like a time when we felt really supported and loved. And I think that made a big difference in how the experience felt.
Be a good girl while we're gone, and when you come back, you're gonna be a big sister.
Sebyuk stayed at a friend's house while we were in the hospital, and then we sent Hetzel to her usual doggy daycare and went to the hospital to check. So I guess we're going now. Next time we come to this gate, we'll have a kid, maybe. How you feel, Nathan?
Let's get ready.
We drove to the hospital, then got out all of our bags. I guess we're going into here now. We're a little late. After we got there, we made our way upstairs to the 3rd floor to Ward 31, which is where you stay for maternity things. We didn't know until we got there if we would get a private room or not, and luckily we did. The view was gorgeous. We checked in and then had the night to relax.
So we're outside of the hospital. It's like a little bit before 6 or 6-ish or something. At night we checked in. Grubs here, like this big baggy thing, some pants underneath. And then they just did some like monitoring of the baby. And then that's about it. It's like 40 minutes of laying on the bed. And then the rest of it is just free time. So it's really interesting. It's actually technically closes. It's been like really quiet. We can just like have the freedom to walk around like however we want to. So we can't eat after midnight. So we're trying to get as much food and energy to store up for tomorrow.
A little later, they gave an allergy test to make sure I wouldn't be allergic to any medications for the next day. But besides that, it was really low-key and chill. We decorated the room so that it would feel really cozy. I'd heard that you can help yourself through induction by having things around you that make you feel calm. So I did that. I also had bought a puppy. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to move around much, so I wanted to get like a yoga peanut ball, but I couldn't find one. The puppy was the closest thing in size that I could find, so I bought the puppy.
Yeah, so far.
We've eaten a lot of stuff. You can tell what we like to do for laughing with the couplehood.
Very true. Also, I can't eat after midnight.
People have been nice. You got lucky and you got a single room. So in terms of before the event, this is about as nice as it can be.
It's true. Tomorrow's gonna be hard.
Yep.
Oh well. I can handle one hard day, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
We had to be ready to transfer to the labor and delivery room by 6 a.m. They'd come to my room to insert an IV, and I freaked out quite a bit, but once we got settled into our new space, I was fine. They gave me an enema and then shaved down there, which is standard practice here, and then started me on the Pitocin. On the machines they were using to monitor me, it wasn't looking like the baby was moving very much. So I had to wear oxygen all day. I also wasn't allowed to move very much. We started the Pitocin around 7 a.m. and it wasn't until after 5. So for 10 hours, I couldn't talk and just had to lay in the way that they were telling me to lay, which was mostly on my left side away from Nathan. I really hadn't expected the day to be so isolated, but in some ways it was good because all I could really do was listen to music and listen to meditations, and so I spent most of the day just preparing myself for labor, and I think that ultimately that really helped when it came time to give birth. The doctor visited a few times through the day, but it never looked like my labor was progressing. The nurses asked a lot if I was feeling any pain, but I really wasn't, so every hour they would up the Pitocin. Around 4 p.m. the doctor came in and said that the induction hadn't been working, but that she would let me try one more day so I'd be able to go get some rest and eat dinner and then try again the next morning. I was really relieved because I hadn't been able to eat since midnight, I hadn't been allowed any water, and also my back was hurting so much from laying in the bed, or so I thought. Plus in the induction room we had a roommate and she had started screaming a lot and it was super scary. So yeah, I was really glad to not have to do it anymore for that day, and I relaxed. Maybe a little too much because a few minutes later I felt a big pop in my stomach area. I asked Nathan to check the monitor to see what it was because maybe it was a contraction. At that point I didn't know what they were gonna feel like. He said that maybe I just got scared at the neighbors screaming. But then I felt like a liquid come out and had a nurse check, and we found out that my water had broken. The nurse had said that the baby station was really high, so We didn't expect that labor would progress super fast. At 5 o'clock, they told me the anesthesiologist was leaving for the night and that I needed to get an epidural placed. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to help me in the middle of the night if I went into active labor. I started to realize that my back pain might actually be contractions while she was placing the epidural. It had crossed my mind before, but there weren't any contractions registering on the machine, so I didn't push to say that that's what was happening. But I was scared of moving during the epidural placement, so I started saying contraction, like every time that my back hurt, and that made the nurses take it more seriously. As soon as the anesthesiologist had placed the epidural, the doctor came in to double check, and we found out pretty quickly that things had been progressing throughout the day. We just hadn't known. And just like that, it was time to have the baby.
We have to go.
Everything happened really quickly from there. I had a comb I was squeezing and a fan because I was hot and they took it away. When we got to the room, I had to change into the chair where you put your legs into stirrups, and it had like grippy things you could squeeze onto to help pull yourself up when you were pushing. We checked the times on our videos later. It took less than 20 minutes from the time that the doctor checked me until the baby was born.
The thing I was thinking about when she was being born was like what the future kind of is. Because I was outside the room, pushed out by the nurses, in my scrubs that they gave to me. I got my hat, I got the gloves. I'm sitting outside, and all I really have is a door. You know, it's kind of very fitting, right? Like here I am at the literal and figurative threshold, you know, the entryway between spaces. Like physically, I'm in the hospital with this door to the delivery room. But like, you know, life-wise, you know, I'm at this doorway between pre-fatherhood and then fatherhood. And it literally was walking through a door, walking past that threshold from one space into another.
The pushing part is hard because how do you push? Nobody teaches you how to push, right? It's like, it's different than the other contraction. Like the normal, when you're not pushing, well, one is like, they're telling you like the whole ride, don't push, right? And it's like, so don't push. You feel like you're gonna push. You have to stop yourself from pushing. They put you on the table. So then they're like, okay, so you have to push, but for pushing to be effective, you have to hold it for 10 seconds every time. And so then you have to push, so then you feel a contraction, and then you push for 10 seconds, and then you're like, okay, good, it would be over. And then they're like, nope, you gotta do it 10 more seconds. So like really you're pushing for 20 seconds with no breath. So I was just trying to listen to what they said and just follow what they're saying. It took like 10 pushes. At one point, they started to help by pushing on my stomach. It's the only time that I felt like really like, yeah. So when the baby came out, so I could tell when it was coming. So when she told me that she could see the head, it did make it feel easier because you know that there's like an end inside, so it made it easier to push harder. Yeah. So like I felt the ring of fire, what they call the ring of fire. I can very distinctively like kind of tell. I could tell when she was stuck out there. Like I could tell that it was in that position. And from there it took 2 pushes. So like she was there for like 30 seconds. And then yeah, it really felt like a snake. The whole cord thing. It really felt like the snake was there. That was really weird. But it was like instantly the pain was gone. She cried immediately. So like from immediately her eyes were open and her
she's very active.
very active.
Nathan hadn't been allowed to be with me during labor, but he was invited in to cut her cord. Nathan had put his camera in his pocket before putting his scrubs on. We're really lucky that we have the few seconds of video and few photos that we have, because when I asked Nathan to take a picture, a nurse took the camera out of his pocket and took these clips for us. It is kind of one of those moments that you want to be able to play back again and again and try to remember. So we're really grateful that we have this footage. So after the baby had been separated from me, she was taken to get cleaned up, and Nathan was able to stay with her. I remember looking over and seeing Nathan hold the baby. I had a pretty long tear from delivery and had to get stitched up. While that was happening, the nurse brought the baby over for us to take our first family picture. And she even let me breastfeed for a few seconds, which I was really surprised about because usually they don't let that happen at the hospital birth. So they had tried to do everything that they could to make it a positive experience. It's actually pretty funny because in most every picture with the baby, I have a piece of cloth in my mouth. This is because right before they brought me into the room to deliver the baby, I had said that I was like super thirsty and didn't know if I could do anything without water. I was really hot. So the doctor gave me this piece of cloth with water on it and let me have it. And I swear that was like the best water I've ever had in my life. I'd never had stitches before, and I could feel the needle going in every time that they were stitching because they didn't use local anesthetic. So having the water was definitely helpful, and it made for some pretty funny first pictures. So after they were done, one of the nurses tried to take out my epidural, and the doctor stopped them because I hadn't been able to really use the epidural. So we went back to our room, and then our nurse showed Nathan how to give me an abdominal massage. He had to do that for an hour, so we sat and talked about the day while he was doing that because we hadn't been able to talk at all. Then at one point, the epidural started making noises that we hadn't heard like at all.
It's coming out, it's that making noise there.
We called in a nurse to ask her what it was, and she said, oh, we must have pushed the button to turn it on. Nobody had explained to me how to work the epidural, since birth had happened so quickly after getting it placed. So we don't know if I ever had any medication coming out of it during labor, but we're not sure. It was a pretty busy night. A nurse showed me how to work the really fancy sitz bath, where you sit on like this toilet thing to get hot water and infrared light sprayed at your butt. Then around like 9 or 10 o'clock, I was allowed to have water and then finally have some food. We went to bed around 12, and before breakfast, they tried to come in and draw my blood, which I cried about because I didn't want to have to do it. It's funny because I didn't cry at all during labor, but I cried because they wanted to take one little vial of blood. They were really understanding and let me eat breakfast first before coming back in to take it. Then we got to go meet the baby. It was the hospital policy that we weren't able to interact much with the baby. We knew that we'd be able to visit her, but we didn't know how long we'd be able to see her. But we went and stood outside of the NICU and waited to get buzzed in. And then they brought us into a small room where we were able to see her for about 5 minutes before doing some paperwork.
White nose.
Hi there.
So much fur.
So cute.
Is that a beard?
Hello.
Hello.
Nathan was really funny around the baby. He was kind of scared to touch her because she was so small.
You're not gonna touch it.
Yeah, it's your baby.
It doesn't have an immune system.
Be careful. She's got my immune system. Pick her up. You can do it. So grab her head.
Am I supposed to pick it up?
I think it's okay.
How do you know?
Just hold her head.
She's so sleepy.
She'll sleep all day. I couldn't really walk well yet at this point, so I couldn't pick up the baby, and I was relying on Nathan to do it. It was really funny to watch him struggle through the process of figuring it out. Do you need help? Do you need help?
This thing's also been locked in place. I'm just holding it. Be careful this side.
So roll her. Good. So roll her onto her side and then roll her onto your hand. There you go. Keep her head supported. Good. There you go. And just bring her close to you. There you go. Then sit her there. Good. Okay, my turn.
Ready?
Yeah. I hadn't had a chance to hold the baby after she was born, so this was the first time that I was able to hold her. What's that feeling? What's that feeling? Hi. After 5 minutes, we had to give her back to the nurse. The time in the hospital felt very focused on my recovery. There was time to relax. They served a lot of different foods. This is Korean hospital food. We got green stuff, and kimchi, and acorn jelly, and cucumber soup,
Like a mandu soup.
rice,
And then your favorite?
potatoes,
And fish.
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 Where's fish?
That's fish.
This is not a potato.
That's fish.
Food at the hospital was definitely hit or miss. Every meal they did serve miyeokguk, this type of seaweed soup that is traditional to eat after you give birth. Luckily, it is one of my favorite Korean foods, but I was definitely happy when one of our friends brought us a cake. We were in the hospital just for 3 nights, and then it was time to check out. The doctor did a final checkup and gave me the medication, which was just antibiotics and ibuprofen. And then it was time to pack up and go and get the baby. It was a really strange feeling to go from not being able to see the baby to being able to take her with us.
Yeah, there's Stacy. She's got the kid.
Those things. We brought the baby and put her in her car seat. It's the year of the snake this year, so our friend had given us this cute snake outfit. Nobody had expected that she'd be as small as she was. The doctors had told us to expect that she'd be over 3 kilograms. By the time we brought her home, she dropped to 2.6 kilograms. She didn't quite fit in her car seat, but we made it work. The first thing we did was stop and get Subway for lunch, and then we needed to drive across the island to go to the joriwon, or like postpartum care center that we were staying at. It's common in Korea for women to go and stay at these care centers. They give you time to recover, they help to take care of the baby, and they teach you a lot of things that you might need to know as a parent. It's a unique system to Korea, and I was really curious about that part of Korean culture. And also I do think that it's a little hard to have a baby and not have like a large community around to help take care of it. So that's why we went ahead and made the choice to go and stay at this joriwon. The joriwon was simple. It had a living room and a cafeteria. The babies were kept inside of a room that looked similar to a hospital room. One of the first things they did was teach us how to swaddle the baby and how to take care of her. And that was really nice because we were pretty inexperienced. When we got there, it was really the first time that we had had a chance to spend time with the baby. We hadn't even had a chance to see her body or see her outside of a swaddle. We were still pretty nervous about everything. Oops, startle reflex.
Didn't like that.
The motor reflex.
Uh-oh. 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 It's a little human, Stacy.
It's a tiny human.
Where's the
Here.
You just leave it on the baby.
Here. She looks just like you. Gosh, turn towards me once. Let me see. Morning. Good morning.
Look like you.
Not at all. I don't see it at all.
She looks a lot like you.
I don't see it at all.
She's a girl for starting. Look at her hair though. So she's got almost a widow's peak.
Yeah. It comes down her hair still. She's still got the hair on her face from being early. Oops.
Alright, sorry. Oh, it's okay to pat their back?
You risk waking her up, but yeah.
She's in REM sleep.
Is she?
She might be. Her
Yeah.
eyes are falling back. She's doing what?
Dreaming. See what Vic does. I can't keep comparing her to a puppy.
You have to. We know.
We finally had a chance after 2 really long days to check her little feet and her hands and just to see everything about her that we hadn't had a chance to see before.
What was that?
The newborn scrunch.
What was that?
They only do this reflex for a little while, so when you pick them up, they scrunch with your feet. One, scrunch, and scrunch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Touch. And scrunch. There it is.
Wow.
There it is. It took us a really long time to give her a name. We'd expected to name her after we spent time with her at the hospital, but we didn't really get to see her at all.
We got different ideas for the name.
Yes.
We were thinking Farnswick.
Oh my god.
No, you weren't.
You're right. More Farnswetta, the female version. You got.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Try again.
Gertrude. Hello, Gertrude.
At this point, it's Nathan's fault that we don't have a name. That's our, because we have a name, but he doesn't want to commit yet. At this point, it's not me anymore. We have 2 names. It's up to him to pick one of them. And finally, when she was 5 days old, we named her Sona Grace. I spent 15 days at the joriwon. Every morning started with a phone call saying it was time to go and breastfeed the baby. I always felt like I was a summer camper, like getting all of my gear and walking to the room, picking a stuffed animal to help me prop her up with. We would go into this room and there'd be other women in there, and then the nurses would also help you with like positioning the baby. And the goal was generally to feed the baby for 20 minutes. After that, we started our day with breakfast. We had a lot of different foods, but usually every meal we had a type of miyeokguk, the traditional seaweed soup. And we had 3 meals a day plus 2 snacks. Everything was healthy and we were really well fed. Throughout the day, the nurses would also help to make sure the baby was fed. Every 2 hours, I'd be called to breastfeed the baby in the special breastfeeding room. And they also prepared bottles of formula and bottles of breast milk that I had pumped. It's here. Every day we had different classes. There was classes on how to read books to kids, arts and crafts classes, yoga classes. They were really fun and a good way to connect with all of the other moms. The majority of the time at the joriwon was spent resting and also spending time with the baby. We would talk on the phone.
Get in here so she can see what we look like. These are it's your favorite grandma. I want to scare her. Here, don't want to scare her. She'll think she's having a nightmare. Hi, pretty girl. You're so pretty. You are so pretty.
I would spend time playing with her. You'll be a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. That's okay. It's good for your body. Take care. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. I'd had an issue with blood clotting after birth, so I needed to go back to the hospital for some follow-up appointments. One of them the baby actually got to come with, and that was cool because she'd also had her own appointment, and we got to bring her home for a few minutes and see what it was like to have the baby at home. The other times I went by myself. For example, I needed a CT scan and about 8 hours of medications through IVs, and it was so nice to be able to leave her with the nurses at the joriwon. Nathan was back at work for part of my stay at the joriwon, but he often would spend the night. One of the things we did every day was read Harry Potter. It was kind of like our baby's first storybook. Nathan also spent a lot of time playing with the baby.
Baby punch. Baby punch. Baby punch. Baby.
We messed around a little bit and took some of our own photos. A friend came to visit and even stuck me pizza one day. This is sneaky. I'm sneaky. Yeah, thank you. Sona's umbilical cord fell off when she was 8 days old. They made a big deal of it and congratulated us. In Korea, it's celebrated because the baby is now independent from the mother. After watching Sona grow up for 2 weeks, we needed to leave the joriwon. On the last night, I went to the breastfeeding room and the nurses came in to say goodbye. They told me how kind Sona was in the nursing room, how she never cried, and they told me that that was special, that I needed to make sure that I took good care of her. I cried a lot because it had meant so much to have the nurses there. They helped to teach me how to take care of the baby, and they also took such good care of her themselves. It was really sad to pack up, but I'll always be grateful for the opportunity to have stayed there, to have been so well taken care of, and to have so much time to just sit and look at Sona when she was so little. On the day that I had gone to the hospital for my CT scan and IVs, I found the song Stargazing. Every day at the joriwon, I would listen to that song while I was looking at Sona and use it to reflect on my birth experience and our time together.
Time stood still, just like a photograph. You made me feel like this will last forever. Looking in your eyes, I see my whole life. Oh, they say you know it when you know it, and I know. Oh, promise that you hold me close, don't let me go. Take my heart, don't break it. Love me to my bones. All this time I wasted. You were right there all along. You and I stargazing, intertwining souls. We were never strangers. You were right there all along. I lose my mind when I'm around you, how I come alive. When I'm without you, I can't help but feel so lost. I wanna give you all I've got. Oh, they say you know it when you know it, and I know. Oh, promise that you'll hold me close, don't let me go. Take my heart, don't break it. Love me to my bones. All this time I wasted. You were right there all along. You and I stargazing, intertwining souls. We were never strangers. You were right there all along. All along. Take my heart, don't break it. Love me to my bones. All this time I wasted. You were right there all along.
When we left the joriwon, they gave Sona an award for learning how to breastfeed. Nathan drove us home, and then we went in and let Saebyuk meet the baby. She was really calm, and we were pretty surprised at her reaction, but it was really reassuring. I went to pick up Hetzel by myself, and Nathan stayed at home to watch the baby. It was cherry blossom season, so on the way home, I brought Hetzel to look at the cherry blossom festival. It was kind of like our last one-on-one time together before going home to meet Sona. We'd been away from home for like 17 days, so the dogs hadn't gotten to see us. Hey! And I think it was a surprise to them that we brought home this whole other human. Hetzel was really curious about the baby and just kept staring at her inside of the stroller.
Young lady, don't talk late, okay?
Our first night home, we put the baby into her bassinet, swaddled her, and watched her sleep. And that was basically the start of the rest of her lives.
We've been like building the story of her slowly. Like, you know, they don't feel real at first. First, it's just like the kid starts out as, you know, for me, like a conversation. For me, the kid starts off as, you know, my wife saying, hey, I think we're going to have a kid maybe. And then as you go through, you get these other milestones of like, you know, reality is getting stitched together, you know, piece by piece, brick by brick. And like you see they have the conversation, and then you go to the doctor visits, and then you go and you are able to see her in the ultrasounds, which is fascinating. You know, we get to see this 3D model which starts off as like this little blurb. You know, looks like, hey, you see these giant lumps of clay-like stuff? Well, that's a kid. You're like, oh, okay, sure, whatever. But then you see a real like picture where you're like, you know, I can actually see a nose. You can actually see a mouth, and it looks kind of real. It's like, oh wow, like there's a person in there. And then you get to the reaction of like, you get to those nights when they're developed enough, they start to kick. And now you can feel movement. You know, it's not just something you see on the screen, but like now you can feel it. It's tactile. You know, something that you can feel with your own hands feels so much more real. And so you put your hand on the belly, and you feel these bumps. You're like, oh wow, here's my daughter, and she's like kicking. Or you see it in the ultrasound, you can see her moving. And so these little things start to make her feel real. And so it kind of builds up until you get to the final reveal of like, here she is, she's out inside the world, she's crying, you can hold her, you can see her face, you can turn her around. You know, all these things kind of build up. So this story, all the way from like that conversation for me to like having her in my hands, now it just looks like it crosses over in the blink of an eye, right?
I'm not prepared for the future. So many things that I just don't know. I cut my hair, bought a new shirt, new pair of shoes, and it's time to go. I finally found an apartment, signed a lease on a car this month. I can't go back to the start now. Time doesn't slow down. I'm on my own. Guess my childhood is over now. I'm taking down my posters and I'm putting all my things inside a box next to a toaster. That's my closest thing to closure. I can't stop this roller coaster. I'm not ready to get older. I'm not ready to get older. Guess my childhood is over now. I'm taking down my posters and I'm telling all my friends we'll get together next October. That's my closest thing to closure. I can't stop this roller coaster. I'm not ready to get older. I'm not ready to get older. Never thought I'd be 20. Now 30 don't seem so far away. I know I gotta make a little money, then maybe find somebody to call my own. I'm ready, but I can't go back in time. I know it's all out of my control now. I know. Guess my childhood is over now. I'm taking down my posters and I'm putting all my things inside a box next to a toaster. That's my closest thing to closure. I can't stop this roller coaster. I'm not ready to get older. I'm not ready to get older. Guess my childhood is over now. I'm taking down my posters and I'm telling all my friends we'll get together next October. That's my closest thing to closure. I can't stop this roller coaster. I'm not ready to get older. I'm not ready to get older. Guess my childhood is over. One day I'll be buying posters for my kids, just like my parents did for me. It's never over. They'll grow up and soon enough they'll wish the time would just move slower. I'm not ready to get older. I'm not ready to get older. Guess my childhood is over. Now I'm taking down my posters and I'm putting all my things inside a box next to a toaster. That's my closest thing to closure. I can't stop this roller coaster. I'm not ready to get older. I'm not ready to get older. Guess my childhood is over. Now I'm taking down my posters and I'm telling all my friends we'll get together next October. That's my closest thing to closure. I can't stop this roller coaster. I'm not ready to get older. I'm not ready to get older.
She is my Sona, my only Sona. I felt alone before she came.